We now return to Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute, the radio show discussing the honest truth about Illinois policy and politics. Here's AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with Diana Rickert, Vice President of Communications for the Illinois Policy Institute. And Diana, we got another suburban school district strike, actually two. One is the suburb of Chicago, in terms of McHenry County High School District 156. The others down in Southern Illinois, East St. Louis. This seems to be something where we're going to see this play out over and over again throughout Illinois because school districts having a hard time making the numbers work when it comes contract time with the teachers' unions.
Yes, and let's be really clear about why that is. It's because the teachers' union have insatiable appetites. If you look at the state budget this year, what was the only thing that was fully funded? Education. So there's no complaints there, but I definitely see this trend. It's almost like the movie Contagion, where one district does it, so then another one's like, hey, I have a great idea. You know what? We could get some raises if we walk out on the job, walk out on the kids. Oh,
and there's no reason why they shouldn't feel that way, because the history is when you go on and strike, it's usually the striking union that ends up winning, getting more than they would have otherwise if they had either agreed to last best final that was offered by the employer or tried to split the difference.
When I saw the story about them going on strike, the first thing I thought about was a few years ago when 156 was trying to pass a referendum and was so engaged in scare tactics that they told the community, if you don't vote for a tax increase, we're shutting down the football program. There will be no high school football. This is how insane it was. So this teachers union seems like it's their turn to turn up the hysterics.
All right. Well, for more on what exactly is going on and what the prospects are for resolution of this strike that started this past week, we're now joined by Gary Kinshofer. Gary Kinshofer is the vice president of the McHenry School District 156 School Board. Gary, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So kind of give us a lay of the land. What is it in terms of where the negotiation or the standoff currently sits? What is it that the school board has proposed to the teachers, and what is it the teachers have countered with?
Well, the Board of Education has offered a 4-year contract that would average about a 2.75% increase in pay for those on the salary schedule. And we've offered to pay for 50% of the increase in the health care cost on top of the stipend that we already provide.
And the teachers?
Well, the association is asking for a 2-year contract. They're asking for a 1.36% increase to the base and step movement. And if you're not familiar with step movement in school districts, our step movement is a 3.63% raise. So a grand total of a 4.99% raise per year for 2 years. And they would like us to continue to pick up all health care increases for both years.
So let's unpack this a little bit, Gary. A lot of people don't realize that when teachers are looking at raises, there's a lot of different kinds of raises they're getting, right? They're getting a raise for just being in the job for one more year. They get a raise if they take a class, and then they get these other kind of raises. Is that the case in your district too?
Yeah. We have 3 components that make up their income revenue stream. One is their base salary, and the base salary has typically been on a salary schedule, and you would advance on it on a yearly basis, and that's where that 3.63% comes in. Then there's also lane movement, which is for every 15 credit hours of education, for which our district does provide tuition reimbursement, so we pay for that education. And then the third way is adding to the base, which is an index where they'll start with the first-year bachelor's teacher, give that person a raise, and then index it out exponentially down to throughout the system.
So what's the average salary in your district right now?
The Illinois report card says our median salary is $69,200.
Whoa.
And how does that compare with school districts in the region?
Well, around us, when you compare with only high school districts, there's very few only high school districts in Illinois. I think there's about 90. We have 18 schools around us, McHenry County and some of the bordering Lake County schools. And according to the Illinois report card, that ranks us second behind District 155.
Now, are you having trouble recruiting talented teachers and retaining them?
That's a myth. This year alone, based on some retirees we've had and some changes we made in some class schedules, we were able to obtain, I believe, 14 new teachers this year. We attracted them to the district. I would only imagine they came here because they love our package that we present.
And just on that point, for those 14 spots that you filled, how many applications did you get?
Oh, hundreds.
So it seems like pretty simple. Seems like a pretty simple situation here where the supply is, not dwindling at all. We've got a lot of teachers that are perfectly happy with what you guys are paying right now.
Absolutely. Many school districts are like that. So, we think we made a very fair offer in this economic climate, and we're waiting to hear a response that they understand what we're offering.
So the 2.7% that you're offering on an annualized basis, and it as opposed to the 5% that the teachers union wants, is that just because you just guys kind of willy-nilly don't want to pay teachers more money?
No. The problem is the system that we currently have was set up, I think, back in the 70s. Nobody teaching here today was part of when the system was made. This system was made when inflation was very, very high. I think in the 70s, inflation averaged, 13, 14%. And since our schools are funded by a CPI model, there's been no correction over the last 40 years. The last 10 years, CPI average is 2.25. You can see the disconnect from 3.63 in an economy that's growing at 13 and 14% versus a guaranteed 3.63 raise in an economy that's growing only at 2.25% in the last 10 years. And now they're talking about doing a 2-year freeze on real estate taxes because CPI is at its all-time low.
So
that's our revenue stream.
What's the argument that the union is making for why they deserve these raises? What's the value add that they're going to give you in the next 2 to 4 years?
It's never taught that they don't add value to our district, because they absolutely do. We value our teachers extremely, extremely well. But the reality is the current system we haven't been able to use the last 4 years. The last 2 contracts have not gone along following that same step base raise model. So we've understand that system is broken. And we're just trying to fix it to a model that fits today's climate.
We're talking to Gary Kinshofer is the vice president of the McHenry High School District 156 School Board. When you talk to the union and their representation, you ever have a conversation with them that goes something like, this 5% per annum raise that you want? I mean, you understand that no one, or virtually no one in the private sector and the community that we serve is seeing those kind of raises in their private sector employment while they're paying property taxes to fund our schools, while they're paying your salary. Any consideration for those who are financing all of this?
Sounds like you've been in our room during discussion.
So do you think anybody in McHenry really buys that this is necessary? And how are people in the community feeling, just a few years after the big referendum push and all the talk about gutting the football team and gutting all the athletic activities?
Well, you have to take all that in consideration when you're negotiating the contract. I believe we've had 10 straight failed referendums. I think the community has spoken to whether or not they think they should finance more growth in the schools on their back. So at this point, we have to deal with what we have.
That seems pretty definitive. The 10 in a row going down. That seems to be a fairly clear message. Let me ask you.
I think the last one was 89%. It was voted down.
That's not.
So that's a pretty big number.
Yeah, it's not terribly close. No, yeah. So let me ask you this though. If they stick to their guns at 5%, and you guys say essentially, look, this is our last best final. At some point, some school district somewhere is going to have to say, if we can't make this work out, no one in this world is irreplaceable. We're going to have to do something that we don't necessarily want to do.
Well, we'd hope we don't ever have to go down that road.
All right. Gary Kinshofer, he is the vice president of McHenry High School District 156 School Board. Gary, thanks for joining us, and good luck resolving the strike.
Thank you much, and we appreciate Fox.
Thank you. And so it's going to be interesting, Diana, isn't it? It's going to be interesting to see if someone is willing to stand the line and do something that's going to put them in the crucible, but maybe encourage other people to say, when we say this is what we can afford, this is not posturing, this is what we can actually afford, and we're just not going back to the taxpayers, because they've sent a clear message, as they apparently have in McHenry County.
Right.